private equity or venture capital,
Venture capital,
investment analyst or community work,
community work.
soul or East.
So, for sure, I'm an East
Build-
hater,
yeah.
kind of. You have to understand your enemy so you can build better. So at that time, Solana was around like $10. So we trade Solana all the way from $10 to over $100. You always need to understand like what the institutional players and also what the communities is thinking. As long as we can stay in the crypto space, we can share the profits, we can share the fruitful, successful achievement with the greater Web3 ecosystem.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel Within the Ram. Today I'm super excited to invite Ezreal, an old friend of mine, also based in Hong Kong. How are you today, Ezreal?
Yeah, great. And great to join the podcast.
Yeah, we are super delighted to have you today. To have a very quick backgrounds of Ezreal. He's a founder of Artisan. And before his Web3 journey, he was working in investment and private equity. So today we are super excited to find out more about his own journey and his advice in building his Web3 career. But just like our history and tradition of our channel, I would love to share some of my interesting first impression about yourself. I remember when we first met, I saw a young guy walking to the cafe with a book and he's reading psychology. You look very young, but then when you talk, you don't talk like in your age and you have a super analytical side of you while you talk about the market. But when we talk about humans and community, I do see a lot of sentimental side of yourself. So I find that you have a very interesting mix of personality.
It sounds like I'm an old soul and also a nerd.
Exactly. This is exactly the word that I wanted to describe you. And also, you don't talk like any other people at your age.
Yeah, that's very true. Like throughout my my studies from secondary schools to universities, I tend to talk to people who are older than me instead of like people at the same age. But at the same time, since I was deferred in the university and even secondary school, so I have to like talk to the people that get along well with the people that younger than me. So pretty much amazing that I have this kind of a distinctive brand that I can able to talk to different groups of people.
Yeah, I think the way that you handle things really reflect on the project that you're building about Artisan, that you're trying to integrate a lot of different philosophy and bringing this vision into the real life. I guess is something that we can talk about in the later part of our conversation. But before we started, I would love to learn more about your personal journey in how you first started building your Web3 career. Like I mentioned, before you started working in Web3, you were working in venture capital, private equity. How did you jump into the TradFi, into crypto?
Yeah, actually, the journey starts from like a university time. At that time, like I have several experience working at banking, venture capital firms, as well as joining like Alibaba jump starters. So my experience is across like VCs, banking, from the traditional stuff to more like emerging technology side. So it's really interesting because at first I thought that I'm more like a banking person because like people always think like, oh, you talk professionally, analytically, and your clients probably will happy to hear your opinions, your perspectives or to the market. But actually, it turns out that I don't really like the hierarchies of banking. So I then turned into like VCs and also joined Alibaba Jumpstarters and other hackathons. And then I realized that creating something disruptive or that makes a change to the world, or even just a personal sense of achievement for myself, is a really great journey for me and really rewarding. So that's why throughout my university time, I create communities called Arts of Trades. At that time, it is still very trading focused, which I share research and fundamentals analysis of stock market, and also to share investment ideas to some of my friends working at banking. So So that's why I kind of gathered a lot of like-minded, and they also actively share their information and insights with me. And luckily, there was community members has invested in crypto, and which is Solana. And at that time, Solana was around like $10. So we trade Solana all the way from $10 to over $100. So after like I think like 1 or 2 times of outage on Solana, then we kind of like started to stop the investment on Solana and kind of like to migrate to other blockchains. So that's why, and thanks to my communities, I had the chance to enjoy kind of like has the first basket of gold and to try different things on blockchains, on Web3s, all the way from DeFi, yield farming, lending and borrowing, aggregators, etc. So, and it really is a kind of like a mind-blown experience to me because as I built my community's art of trades, I shared research, I share insights with my community members. But I want to kind of democratize professional trading to the general public and to even to retail. I first gathered my like-minded analysts, so to make sure the conversation is high quality. But when I see the DeFi, for example, like the AMM model by Uniswap, I see it is really disruptive innovations, which even like currently, I haven't seen similar things this cycle like Uniswap AMM model right now. Market makings enable retails to be the market maker, which in Web2, in TradFi, only institutions has the chance to earn profits by doing a market maker. So I really see like DeFi can help retails in a way that everyone is trustless and permissionless. Through the powers of blockchains, we can create another ecosystem part separate from TradFi, and there's already like Bitcoin, Ethereum, there's already a token that can accrue the values through the blockchain's transaction. So that's why I was really excited. And then after I graduated, I joined family office, which they invest in kind of grow cryptos and also stocks. I kind of like to learn from like how my analyst colleagues and also what the bosses are thinking through their decision-making process, investment process. And then find that I really need to get into like fully get into the crypto space. So another job that I get into is the venture capital firms specialized investing in crypto. So there are lots of opportunities, and they really kind of like push the boundary of me to understand the deal flows, to analyze the project and perform due diligence to the project, and how to set trade ideas, exit, and so on. So it's really a fruitful journey for me, all the way from the communities to working at the analyst at the VCs.
Well, it sounds like to me, since you were a relatively young age, since you were in university, you were already exposed to a lot of like entrepreneurial competition, trading competition, and then you were building your own community, which already like the idea of the crypto is already like putting into spaces because like you already embraces the idea and it fits clearly onto what you're pursuing. And then you realize crypto has all the things that being available to you, and it fits a lot of your own identity. It's such a blessing journey to be that you find out this is actually your interest and your dream that you would like to pursue in your career.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like the journey, although it seems that kind of like glamorous, is also kind of rough at the same time because I'm kind of like pursuing a path not conformed by the society, right? Everyone's like who studies economics and finance, my schoolmates at that time, they want to pursue a career at banking, like banks, private banking, or VCs. But I took another path, which is go to like the founding project, more like invest in cryptos. So I have to bear the responsibilities or like not to be understand to a certain extent. So but at the same time, I was so lucky because thanks to my community as well, they really give me lots of chances and introduce me to the industry experts. So that's why I can get into the crypto space and get into the replicas of crypto in general.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you choose intentionally to have a unconventional career path, and there are a lot of things that you have to give and take. And just like you mentioned, apparently like being in the crypto space will give you some advantages that it give you autonomy. Apart from that, what are the things that if you look back, what are the biggest difference that you can imagine compared to if you are still working in the investment banking or private equity? What are the biggest differences that you can say that, oh, it's really something that I enjoy being in Web3?
I can't imagine because I can't tolerate a single moment working at banking or like a really hierarchical structures of kind of companies. Because what my journey is, like I've mentioned, is artisan communities or art of trade communities is really borderless, decentralized, collective initiatives that everyone contributes to trade ideas, analysis, and what you witness in the crypto markets, right? So, and we also like to share resources and gather like-minded as well. So that's why I think if I really work in iBank or private equities for traditional one, I think I will have a mental breakdown for sure.
Yeah. Like
And
the
that's why I think,
yeah.
the stress is crazy. You have to work overtime. Of course, crypto is 24/7. We need to, we kind of like work overtime, but I really see the potential and it keeps me excited. So, I'm energized to look into different opportunities and new innovations in the crypto space.
Just in a short conversation, you mentioned that you know how to execute trade, how you do an investment analysis. I know that you personally know coding and you are very good at building community. Apparently, those are the very essential skills working in the Web3 space. But if you have to share with us, like you think the three top skills that makes you the way you are today, what are the top three skills that you would recommend people could sharpen if they want to trying to learn something from your career?
I think it's always about like communication skills or interpersonal skills in general. Because in the futures, I envision the world will be more like project-based, more interconnected, and we worked maybe just at our home instead of working at the office. And with the globalizations, everyone's or the distributions or the supply chain is also like globalized, right? So we need that interpersonal skills to help us to communicate and understand the needs of different people. From a more philosophical point of view, is that like language itself is already a barrier, and we can hardly understand what exactly the person is thinking about. So no matter from personal perspective, like on my own, I have to have a better choice of words to find the suitable ways of talking about the ideas so that the person that I'm talking to can understand what I'm talking about. So for the person, they also need to like understand the differences, no matter from the cultural perspective or the language perspective, like under different contexts and scenario. So they need to like equip with that skill to kind of like understand like what each other is thinking. So at the end, they can create values together and drive values for the businesses or their own personal growth. So I think first of all, interpersonal skills is the most important. And another thing is the curiosity. This is not exactly a skill, but I would say it is a mindset or mentalities that must-have mentalities to success, no matter you are in Web3 or not. Especially in Web3, like the best product today may not be the best product tomorrow. So we see like lots of layer one blockchains right now, but do we need so many block space? Do we need so many infrastructures? That's the question, right? So the narratives may change or shift anytime. Even if you have already launched blockchains, like for example, quite successful raising recently like Monnet or Bearer chains, they still need to adapt to the market narratives, to shift the narratives so that the market can kind of like to accept and able to evaluate whether the team is up to the market, and so they have the convictions to follow through and also continue to build on top of the ecosystem. So I think from a project perspective, they need curiosities. And for the personal perspective, you also need the curiosity to understand what is going on around you and what's the latest innovations are happening in the space. So this is the second one. And the third one, I'll say you always need to have like a contrarian mindset, which means you are able to have a debate with yourself. Most of the time, like I always have strong convictions to a particular perspective, but at the same time, I understand that this is just my own perspective, like what the market is thinking, and what if I'm wrong? So what is the result, or what are the risks if I'm lost right or I go against the market? So we always need that contrarian mindset and always debate yourself to prove your concept. For a project, you need to prove a concept. For yourself, you need to make sure that your thoughts are clear enough. So when people ask you questions, or when there's obstacles, or when there's hurdles that you need to face, you won't get shaked out. You are still kind of like to follow through to pursue your career or your ideas to make it success. Yeah, that's what I think in general.
Yeah. Just by sharing your top 3 skills, I think everyone can already have a sense of you have a very good balance of being mentally attached to certain topic, but at the same time being very analytical about how you put yourself together. And I think everyone can see that, right?
Yeah, especially like on social media, right? We know there's an algorithm, we have echo chamber, and the social media makes the echo chamber even worse. So we need to have a mindset that what we see is pushed by the algorithm, and there are lots of other opinions in the market or in the society. So we always need to be alert, stay alert.
We have to have the balance of both.
Yeah.
I know that one of your fortes must be having the investment analysis. Apparently, trading in traditional finance, where I know that personally you spend a lot of time trading securities, but at the same time, you also have a lot of research in investment, not just in crypto, but also other derivatives in crypto like NFTs, RWA, etc. Did you transfer your skills from a traditional investment mindset to a more Web3 mindset? Because I know that the investment philosophy could be very different. Could you share with us a little bit more? How did you accommodate this change?
Yeah, I would say there's 2 different ways that I look into mainly. And the first one is kind of like a first principle investment. Always like go to the basics, go to the fundamentals. Like what is the most important things? What is the cornerstones of a particular thing? Like for example, blockchains, right? We see the pump up fund with the meme coin tradings was on fire on Solana, and the Solana meme coins is already kind of like narratives in the crypto space. So what makes the success of the meme coin? Is it Solana infrastructures or the other things? Or is it the sentiments or the communities of Solana, or the infrastructures that Solana provides, like the speed of the blockchains is the key to differentiate like the different meme coins? Or like just luckily Pump Fund is randomly built on Solana and they got the success. So we need to find out like what makes the success at the fundamentals. And this is kind of comes to the first principle investment. That's I'm always looking to. And if you find out that what is the fundamentals, then you can always invest in the fundamentals rather than like speculate or chasing around like a slightly higher yield that you may have to like tolerate lots of risk in the market. So that's why I would say go to the fundamentals. And for primary market, how I can implement this first principle investment skill is that ask the questions like why blockchains, why crypto, why Web3, like why these projects have to be in the crypto space. And in fact, lots of projects do not need crypto, do not need blockchains, and they can also make a success. So if such projects just want to get the fundraisings from the Web3 investors, usually they won't be success. And unless there's lots of huge problem in the Web2. But I would say there are so many friction costs, there are so many migrations, or like, for example, it's like a Twitter. If you build a Web3 Twitter, so you need to incentivize the influencers to your Web3 Twitter platforms. And at the same time, their audience also need to migrate to the Web3 Twitter. So how much cost do you need to implement such initiatives? And is it a crucial part for us to have such infrastructures? Is it like can drastically change the landscape, or such creator economy can be a success just by like to migrate to different platforms? I don't think this is I would say fundamentally change how the market or how cryptos say works in general. So the project needs to be like agnostic and to be like to prove that it is cryptos, and it is only can happen in cryptos, like projects like Ethena they leverage the on-chain and off-chain centralized exchange funding rate to create a stablecoin, and this is the most rapidly growing stablecoin in the market this year. So I think it's proof that when your product market fit suits the landscape and is uniquely in crypto, then you will be successful. So I think this is the first principle investing I think I have to look into. And for more like trading or TradFi perspective, it's like you have to like understand the sentiment of the market. There are a few things that we have to look into. First thing is the narratives, like what top VCs, the narratives is like what Station sees, Pantera, Multicon is advocating in conference, what they are writing on their thesis or like investment thesis or like the investment memo, so they can justify their investment. So if there is such vertical, they are really have the convictions that this is potentially the narratives gonna be in the coming cycle or next trend in the crypto space. And another thing is, as I mentioned, is kind of like a top community driven perspective, which is bottom up instead of top down from the VCs. Like you have to listen to the communities, whether the users are satisfied about the project, are they enthusiasts, are there many degens? Basically, what are the demographic of the users, and what are the feedbacks they are given to the product? So if the product team really listen to the communities, usually they will make a better iterative and slowly, gradually improving approach that they can find the product market fit and eventually be a successful project. So I think this kind of like twofold analysis is the most crucial for my investment thinking process.
Well, I really like your chain of thought when you're trying to explain your idea in such a analytical and precise way. But at the same time, I know that you also have another facade that you are also a degen yourself. How do you balance these two mentality? Because like the way that you just mentioned it, I think it's so different from what a degen would say. It's always moon or dust. How do you balance internally? It sounds very schizophrenic to me.
Like say like I have the degen DNA, but when it talks like when I really like to press the button to execute the trade, I will hesitate. So I would say I am a degen, but I don't have the balls like degen.
That's brilliant. Well, speaking of this, I know that, like you mentioned, you've been in the crypto space for a while now. You have founded Artisan for about 6 years. What in the past 6 years, or if not more, what was the change about the crypto narrative?
Yeah, wow, it's really undergone a dramatic transformation over the past 6 years. And even at that time, like my communities was not like crypto native, and there are many traders and analysts. Currently, this is more like crypto native industry experts. So in short, like when I first started exploring this space, I think it's still very much a niche, a retail-driven market, and more driven by sentiment and speculation, rather than like we talk about narratives and maybe perhaps some of the fundamentals values like TVL, like the user, like on-chain activities for ecosystem. So, but as we have seen, like that dynamic has shifted. So we see more institutions adoption, and I think there will be more like directional and discretionary mandates for traditional players to get into cryptos once the regulations comes in and clarify the regulation landscape, so they can implement their ideas. And we already seen like institutional investors like BlackRock or some hedge funds, they are getting into the crypto space, but what they want to build next after like investing in Bitcoin. So probably maybe Bitcoin finance, BTC-Fi, but they really need that regulation in place and transparency enough for them to execute. And this is also like the real, I would say the real challenge lies, because like you have mentioned, like I have to separate the nuances in the industries. Like for institutional investor from TradFi, they are more fundamental driven. For VCs in the crypto space, they like to build and shape the narratives of the crypto space. And there are also degens and retails. They just want to speculate and they want their moon bets and they want 100x opportunities rather than investing in the VC coins. So I'll say in the long run, like like we see like it's gonna be more sophisticated and more institutional adoptions, rather than we can see, look back in the history, there are so many like ICOs, which entrepreneurs just raise capitals for their crypto projects, issuing new tokens. And these periods were kind of like, say, like a music chair and proliferations of new blockchain protocols and replications, which they only have maybe a white paper or like a website at that time. And it also showcased that the potentials of crypto, but it's mainly driven by speculation. And then it gains like more mainstream, like I've mentioned, like hedge funds, investment bankers getting into the space. Like for example, though new people may not know, there are several blockchains that I dare not to name them, but blockchains in Hong Kong, they at that time they just invest in Bitcoin, and then they sit on the Bitcoin from using the investor money, and they did nothing. But they fell to the trend, they get a really huge profit. So that's kind of interesting stories to share. Also, like after that, there are also DeFi summer, and we see also NFT. It's kind of like a blend of innovations and also speculation. But I think this is a normal situations that the kind of like the enlightenment of innovation is also have a gap between the financialization part and also the innovation part. So at the end, it will reach the point which is equilibrium. And I think the tipping point or the turning point could be the regulation being set by the US government, and more sophisticated investing will come into space. So yeah, I think this is the landscape, crypto landscape that I think is gonna be, and kind of this kind of actually the navigating this evolving landscape requires a lot of technical expertise, financial acumen, and also regulatory know-how. So it's no longer enough to simply ride on the wave of like riding on the hype of investors or VCs. Everyone needs to have the discipline, and they have the analysis, so that, and also for the project, they need to deliver tangible values rather than just shaping the narratives. And at currently, we see the valuations of blockchains like maybe the PS ratio 100x, which is crazy, and also DCF makes nonsense, right? So the valuation is overvalued in my humble opinion. And I think applications after the regulations comes in, there are lots of potential upside rather than investing in infrastructures. But that's just my two Satoshi, I'll say. And we love to see, and I think we always need to keep learning and stay abreast of what crypto space is happening.
What would be the things that you recommend in equipping for the change of the landscape, like when institution money is coming in, but then, like you mentioned, the tipping point is definitely when there is more regulatory framework being implemented. What would you recommend for other builders or people working in the space? What are the things that they can better prepare themselves for the change?
I'll say you always need to understand like what the institutional players and also what the communities is thinking. And they have totally different perspectives. And for the project at early stage, you need to do fundraising, you need to iterate your ideas or project. So kind of like to submit your homework to your investors. I think that's the very first things that you have to look into, is like what the institutional investors are interested in, and what your personal edge and what your personal interest in crypto can leverage that to become a product or a protocol. So so you need to have a balance between like what you want to build and what the institutional investors are looking into. And a very quick example is that like BTC Finance, right? BTC Fi. We see like BlackRock investing in Bitcoin, while ETH ETF is kind of like an outflow, or institutional investor in general is not kind of like really enthusiastic about Ethereum, investing in Ethereum. So why is it? So is it Bitcoin itself has a more stable kind of like I'll say the characteristics of money, like they can achieve the store of values, medium of exchange, and so on, and unit of price and so on, right? Or like Ethereum is too fluctuates, or is this it's hard to do the valuation. And from my perspective, is for Ethereum, it's really hard to do that because you cannot define it as a tech firm or growing tech firm. And at the same time, it's also in infrastructures, like blockchain infrastructures. It has its own economy. And at the same time, it's also had so many different protocols on it. So how you define Ethereum? It's really hard for institutional investors to explain to their LPs why they are investing in Ethereum and what they can do on Ethereum. It is not that intuitive, I'll say. But for Bitcoin narratives that since I was in university, they have been advocating that Bitcoin is the digital gold, and for investors, it can push your portfolio Sharpe ratio boundaries by investing in crypto, let's say to 5 to 10% in your portfolio, and your Sharpe ratio will increase a lot. So I think that's they can more easily to talk to their investors why they are investing in Bitcoin, as long as the regulation concern is proven. So that's why I think after that, they will invest in BTC-related ecosystem, like Chain, like Mesos, or RWA that utilize blockchains as the infrastructures to enable more utilities or like securities for adoptions. And we already seen successful case in countries or in Africa. They use Bitcoin for exchange for payment or wallet for those who do not have a bank account. So yeah, that's why I think we need to understand like what institutional investors are thinking and what is their plan to do with what they are holding on hand right now, like which is BTC. So for founders, they have to look into it. And also for the community side, they're really complicated, right? Because because the community, I would say, they have to look into what is your product, or they just invest in your project. They think there's opportunities to get 10x. So you need to understand like what the components, what are the peoples in your communities before, especially when you have launched your project. So you always need to like categorize them and to systematically entertain or kind of like to root out some of the community members. So this is not usually a project can say, but for like a community person or like a more independent analyst like me, then I'm happy to share that you need to find your way and you need to give the identity for your community members so that they can build and to build and also to share the success with you in the future. So I think that's the two things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of this, I think you definitely implement a lot of your thought process in building your own project and product Artisan. Do you want to talk a little bit more regarding the visions on what you're trying to build and how you pave the way for like building the community? Because I know that you are very actively building both online and offline community events.
Yeah, sure. I think this is really a rough, but I would say a really iterative approach of doing like and building my artisan community. Like at first, I just want to create a community that we share insights, trading information at the crypto space without much visions or goal. More like gathering my connections throughout my trading or crypto journey. So that's the first iterations of artisan communities. And the second iterative is like, I want to turn this into investment DAO, which quite similar to the very well-known Singapore community founded by Elroy, JJ. Originally, they want to create the investment DAO. And but at the same time, they think that the regulation will find them. And also Singapore is kind of like conservative at that time. So they didn't take that move to create an investment DAO. So instead they create the NFT and to gather like-minded and to have lots of conversation and to share resources and see like what they can do in the future. So I think I share a similar thought. So at that time, I want to raise a treasury, a self-custodian, kind of like to create a self-custodian protocols for treasury management or like an investment DAO and enable different yield farming strategies and also do on-chain, off-chain investment solutions for my community members. But I really, at the same time, I was afraid for the regulation as well. So I didn't follow through the ideas of creating an investment DAO. So, but still, I continue to publish my research reports and to share my resources with different community members. And I think we have several successful use cases that, for example, like creating events for ecosystems to gather like developers to have a hackathon and also help projects to get listed on centralized exchange, to write white paper for crypto projects. And even for communities, we can share some exclusive pass or tickets for them to enter different events. I think this is what we currently do, and we are quite happy to see like everyone can get what they want in the communities, while they are always happy to share their resources they have with the community members. So this is the second iteration, I'll say, for the Artisan. And the third iterations, which is we currently doing, is more like I'll say a Web3 Asana or Web3 Atlassian full stacks of protocols in Web3. Because we see lots of problems or the procedures in the crypto space is that many ecosystems, they want to incentivize the developers or community members to have different initiatives to get more people on board, to have more user activities, or even just as small as like creating events to watch party, to look at the I'll say to launch of new products or the innovations that the project is currently building. But at the same time, like they don't have a really clear or transparent infrastructures. But at the same time, they are already built on blockchain. So what we envision is that building economic and community layers on blockchains that can gather the resources and the futures of work of community members or different identities on blockchains can really facilitate the collaborations, the incentivize, and the resources we have on blockchain. So I see that it will be the futures of work, and we see like it can help ecosystem and also projects to have a more tightly connected layers through the Web3, our community layers, and to have more attractions. Like you can see like Galaxy in the market, they have different crests that users can go through, and then they can get a bite of the pie, so they can have the resources, they can have the money, they can have the token airdrop or the whitelist for the project. But I think this can be built in on the blockchains, and this can also be built to connect, let's say, to have an SDK that can bridge the ecosystem and also the projects together and also the user together. And this is what we envision in the future that we want to build.
I have a feeling that throughout the journey, you kind of need to steer a different directions because of the change of regulations, the change of the narrative. And of course, I bet the people that you interact with your own community, that you also have to have a very democratic mindset in trying to accommodate everyone, like how you steer the directions on the whole community, where they're going. Throughout the journey, could you share with us a little bit more, like how did you make certain decisions while you have to observe the changes and wait for the right time in launching the right product at the
say like since like I've mentioned earlier, like the best product today may not be the best product tomorrow. So we always need to able to change, to adapt to the market, listen to the market, listen to the communities, what they are thinking, or what they want to build in the futures, and what they see will gonna be the success in the futures. But at the same time, we start to build things that right now, this is, of course, we can have a chance to success, but at the same time, it puts our reputations, it puts our relationship with investors, VCs at risk. So we really cherish the relationship we have throughout the journey in the crypto. I think we really need to be careful, especially I think in general, crypto space has lots of opportunities. We should not, while people always say, or Degens always say, we have to FOMO, we have to free invest, blah, blah, blah. But I think as long as we can stay in the crypto space, we build with the crypto space as a whole, we can share the profits, we can share the fruitful, successful achievement with the greater Web3 ecosystem. So I'll say be patient and always able to adapt and do not have kind of like really strong convictions on yourself, but always listen to what other people are thinking. So at some point, you will find the best route that can accommodate no matter your edge, your thoughts, your product. At the same time, it aligns with what the crypto market is currently thinking. Especially like I mentioned, like let's say I have the Degen DNA, but I don't have the Degen actions. I cannot do Degen things for real. Such a narratives or such a sentiment for me might not be the most suitable way for me to build at that time, right? Some people may be very good at like building tractions, building up sentiments for the project, but I'm not that kind of person. I'm more like a contrarian thinking. I more have my own thoughts, but I more have an analytical mindset. So what's the potential product market fit in such market sentiment? Or I need to wait a more suitable time, which is potentially when the regulation comes in, more institutional adoption, then sophisticated investor might be more interested in what I'm building. So I would say I will gotta be patient and also keep talking to people in the market to see what they are thinking about my project. And I'm always happy to reiterate and also change the product to find the best product market fit in the market.
Without any concern or without any realistic restriction, how would you envision the best ideal scenario within the crypto space?
I would say everything is gonna be decentralized. I think decentralization is the ultimate goal for a person, philosophically. Of course, there are some people who like conformity, who like to follow what other people's lives, they live other people's life, and like what I've mentioned, like doing private banking stuff, studying finance, studying economics, or studying an MBA at a top-notch university. There are also different types of people who want to pursue their personal growth. They have their own identity or maybe myriads of identity. And especially we are in an era where the roads are not that stable, are not rapidly growing. So before that, we kind of have a thinking that working at the investment bank can guarantee you have a lifetime success. But right now, for example, in Hong Kong, IBD, people are getting laid off. And for investment bank, they can always recruit people back when there's new deals for listing. But right now, there's no. So what they can do. So the previous security do not hold anymore. But Web3 blockchains, which is a characterization, we'll say, can provide the opportunities for us to have different identities. We can do different things, just like a slasher. And I think it aligns with what the next generations they want to do or they want to achieve. We see lots of like bright minds that I talk to the young minds. They can do coding. They can also do trading. They can also do art and so on. So there are really, I would say, blooming opportunities for them to experience several things in life. And I think crypto Web3 is the soul that they can grow on blockchains to self-actualize their dream or what they want to do as a person, rather than living a standard life of what other people think. So what I envision is that in the future, we can see like more decentralized ways of lifestyles, all the way from the work, from your identity, and even for your family. And this is, I would say, a really natural process and procedures we have already seen in reality. Like another example I can give is that like for male, for like the gender equalities or the or feminism topics that people always talk about. And in fact, like feminism, we always also want to empower a male. They want to empower that they can be free from bias, that they work for the family. They can, instead of just making a living for the families and children. So I think this is pretty much similar to blockchains. Like you don't need to be like stick to your 24 over 7 like trading crypto. You can at the same time you can be an NFT Degen. You can be project founders. You can be community members across several NFT projects or DeFi projects, right? So this is really amazing, and this is the infrastructures that can push the decentralization boundary to the next level. And what I'll say the biggest hurdle we are facing is the governance. And at Artisan DAO or Artisan, we are actively looking for like how to we take the hardest path to find out like what's the best way for governance, for on-chain governance in general, so that everyone can share or incentivize while they can accrue the values on the blockchain. So I'll say we need to have that kind of thinking from no matter political science to gender equalities or like to social economies fields and even for financial points of views. And I think And this is a more, I'll say, natural process to realize the decentralization dream.
I do think, Israel, you're both a dreamer and a doer. And before we go, my last question to you is, because I observed that you are, apart from working on your own project, that you emphasize a lot on sharing your own resources, and also like the idea of decentralization as well as education. I do see that you go back to your own school, your university, you have participate in a lot of sharing and education, creating educational content. What is the most influential person or event that in your life that triggered you having this kind of deep thinking process?
Wow, this is such a big question. But I would say I have a mindset that like I see lots of pain, lots of problems in the society, and I want something that is disruptive, radical, and I think a radical solution is needed to change this problems which is deep rooted in our society. So partially I think Ray Dalio is kind of like you have an inspiration to me, because he talks about like how to have implement a radical and transparent investment system with his colleagues, or he implemented in Bridgewater. So everyone's have a say, everyone's have kind of like a peer evaluation throughout the investment process, rather than the investment team or manager or Ray Dalio. Everyone's have a bias that, oh, he is right, he probably right. And people will fall prey to, I would say, kind of like the problems of like listening to the influential person. And I think that's why I say like for like throughout my journey, I see lots of problems in the society, and I really feel the need to change. And I read lots of books like from the radical markets, like politics, philosophy, from my like even secondary school. I think it shaped a lot like what my thinking is. I think my mind or like my thinking is really I'll say curated by those sharpest minds in the philosophical space, and also the giants in the political space.
Wow, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation today, and I hope to see you in person soon.
I hope you enjoyed the video, as we will be interviewing with interesting leaders across the Web3 space on a weekly basis. Be sure to stay tuned to us. If you find our content interesting, be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the like button, hit the bell notification, and see you in the next one.